Yeah, I'm dreaming. I'm breathing. I'm talking too coming up the walkway to your front door, 'cause I hear you're living sometimes, or so they say. But I ain't got no proof. So I'm knocking. And I'm wondering, who's coming with and who's taking off? 'Cause I'm swinging from planets, man. I'm seducing the sidewalk. I'm tasting the wordscape, and I'm walking the weblog. And I'm not questioning why your recognition is running from now, or why your application never stopped to ask how. 'Cause the skinny of this dig is that it ain't got no rote, much as we ride it down and low as it rides us. And I'm wondering, who's coming with and who's taking off? Each time I come knocking down that growing front door, asking again, can you come out and play? My name is Jeanette Powers. I'm born and raised Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri. I straddle it. And I am an artist, first and foremost. I believe in the power of emotion, connection, and the human experience. And because that's such a varied thing, there's not just one way to do it. So sometimes I'm writing poetry, sometimes I'm doing performance art pieces, sometimes I'm doing written work and publishing, other times visual arts is huge in my life. And then also I consider community building and event creation to also be a form of art, to do that well, to make your artists feel they have a safe space to present themselves, to generate an audience in this day and age who's going to put down the phone and really pay attention to something live, creative, original, in the moment, is a gorgeous thing, and that I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to do quite a bit of. And then my closest kept is the daily practices of an artist that you make, and in that my social media is all 100% art. You don't see any kind of, here's my food, here's my day, here's a frustrated thing that happened to me in the line, here's my vague post about somebody I'm upset about because I hope they see it, because really what I want is to talk to them. All of what I do on social media, and you should follow me, Jeanette Powers, is art and creating art, because I believe if we put that practice back into our day, then we would all be communicating about things that are real. I think that having a job at all is a creation of powerful people who need minions to make their ideas real. If that's who you are as a person and all you really want is money, 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 go get it. Go do you. But if you're not the kind of person who can just make themselves an agent of someone else's mission, if you have something to say in the world, now you're creating art. And you could be a gardener, you could be a landscape artist, you could be a painter or a performer. The possibilities are endless. But the idea that we have to go and act as a cubicle monkey or a corporate wage slave or doing any of that is a myth that we have been sold because corporations are good at surviving. We need to take our own agency back. And what's difficult about that is that you actually have to find what you want to do. And to find your happiness in work and creation is a very difficult process. And I think that's why people just fall back on what's easy, is going to your 9 to 5. You don't have to think, you don't have to engage. It's super easy. You get that paycheck, you get your bills paid. That becomes a habit. But if you're really chasing your passion, if you have found that passion and you're really chasing it, you'll find that that work doesn't feel like work at all, and that you can absolutely find a million possibilities to make a living. Sometimes that'll mean redefining what it is to have a living. Do we need a house in the suburbs with a chain link fence and a television in every room? Are these really the things that make us happy, or are those just what we're told will make us happy by advertisements? You begin to question these kind of things, and it really begins to set a revolution in the way you think, because you realize that you're a product to the vast majority of things in the world. Corporate entities, people, politicians, doctors, all of it, you're a product. And in order to escape that, you have to take and make your own work And I support that and artists above everything. Maybe like last week I realized it might really work. But no, every day I realize that. That's important. Every day I have questions. Every day there's doubts. You're not just, going to that 9 to 5. You're actually generating your own self and ideas and livelihood. And so if you're not questioning that, you're not growing. If you're not recommitting yourself to that every day, then you're not being authentic, because it's not a habit. But what gave me the audacity? Man, I guess I like to say I wasn't raised right. I really wasn't raised at all. I was kind of just like left to my own devices. So I never had anyone telling me I had to be one way or had to be this way or had to do this. There wasn't even like, you have to eat this way. There was nothing. So I just was in this really strange place of that comes out of neglect, where you begin to trust yourself and find what you really want, and you get to make your own path because you don't know anything else. And so I just, in some ways, I think I was always that way by nature, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that oppress you or things that you want to go. I remember when I finally went to college at 27, everybody in my family was just like, took me seriously suddenly. Or when I'd lost a lot of weight because I was a meth addict on the verge of death, everybody in my family was like, oh, you look so beautiful. And so there's this immense amount of pressure to please people you love that sometimes you have to be willing to give up. And that's its own kind of suffering. So your own liberation comes with this kind of suffering, because the real truth is that you can't make everyone happy. And a great mentor of mine once said, the only person who you know what they really want is you. So if you get what you want, at least one person in the world is happy. I'm in a really fortunate position running the Uptown Arts Bar, because I get paid to engage with artists and be creative and put on productions every single day. Those are not my productions, they're other people's ideas that I just stage manage and help facilitate. But at the same time, I learn so much from that. And so I guess what I'd really advise people is go engage yourself with the community. Maybe you don't get lucky that you get hired as this position and it's paying right off, but either way, engage yourself with the community, because your biggest obstacle will be learning how to do everything, and developing friends and networks and communications will help you with that. But also you develop that support system about what you're doing by being in communities. I also think it's important to not always be focused on what you're doing as an artist, but also to focus on just helping other artists out and helping them create their best vision. Because you learn so much from that process too, that you'll take back to your own work. And then you have these people who begin to be able to count on you and trust you. And anytime there's a bigger group of artists working together, you're going to end up with much better productions in the long run. So then my biggest obstacle is managing time and being sure that I'm making time for my health, making time for my family, making time for that, whatever it is that's actually generating your money, which is not always your first priority in your art world, and then managing time to be sure I'm still being creative and authentic to myself every day too.
Have you at any point had to see yourself as an obstacle?
Every single day. One of my mantras, I have a number, is I am the center of all of my problems. And I just say that to myself. Anytime I start feeling anxious or bad or wondering what's going on, what's in this situation, how's this personal relationship going, where's my art going, what's happening this, I just say, I am the center of all of my problems. Because that's so empowering. Because then you realize, oh, I'm taking that responsibility, agency, and strength to not only admit this world I've created is of my doing, but also that I have power to change that world in a positive way so that I can move forward in a place of health, productivity, and happiness. Oh, this is the worst question for me because I just don't think that way. But I'm really trying, because people ask this a lot and I want to have an answer. So, 1, canoe from Caw Point to the headwaters of the Amazon. Did I start with 2? Also, get more artists in residencies so that I can see other artists in action and travel the world in that way. Not just as a vacationer who's seeing the sights, but really as being engaged and put right into artistic communities that are thriving in places across the world. I would very much love to bring performance art in a serious way back to art gallery spaces. I'm starting on that really authentically this year in 2016. And what else? I want to keep publishing. I enjoy publishing books, and all of those are pretty general things. But I just kind of aim towards those goals and figure it'll all come out in the wash. I'd say it's important to realize that for me as an artist, monetization can be a very negative thing about the artist. What I encourage is to reduce your needs so vastly that you can work an extraordinarily small amount of time, and then that leaves you with free time for the rest of it. And so my goals in a large part are not money, fame, or any of the normal things. It's authenticity in my experiences and interactions. It's a really difficult question on business and art, and I've done a lot of different things. I did commissioned portraits for a long time, and that's great money but morally debilitating. I went back to service industry because you can clock in your hours, get a really good hourly wage, and then leave it at the door and never bring it out with you. And I'm now working in an arts industry, which is incredibly rewarding. It's the best of all situations, but at the same time, it's not, I think, where I'm going to end up. It's just another one of those things I've tried, and it's great. Do it if you get a chance. But my next step, and each artist has to find their own place, and I think I've tried so many things because nothing's quite worked for me yet. I'm going to keep trying things until something clicks for a long-term plan, or maybe no long-term plan exists, and that's okay too. But my next step is getting grants and artist in residencies that are fully funded. And so that's where I'm putting my effort and energy and time right now, so that I can be sustainable financially and not starve. But at the same time, it's a little bit outside of doing business, because what I'm selling is myself as an artist, not the art as a product. And that's all about my ethics right there. American Pie, global influence, and universal connection. Wow, you're going to make me be really nerdy now. Okay, as a person who's studied physics and math, that's what my degrees are in, I want to tell everyone that factually, scientifically, we are all deeply connected by vibrating energies. This is an observable, well-known scientific fact. And so if people critique your feelings of that, which I know as artists happens to us, tell them I said they're wrong. So I guess I want to say we're all connected. There's no escaping that. In fact, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And the global connectedness, I have mixed feelings on that, because on the one hand, I want individual communities to thrive in their unique ways. And on the other hand, I think information wants to be free, and that people just are hungry for information. And so the more we have, the better. And in dealing with that as an anxiety in my life, I think I've come to decide that what's actually happening is that the uniqueness of the human community is something that cannot be taken away, regardless of how deeply we connect with our neighbors, with our cities, with our nations, and with our world. So we don't actually have to be afraid of that. It's going to happen naturally. And American Pie and nationalities, that's what I have to say. But not pie. It's delicious. What I would really like to say about chasers, people who chase the dream, they can't be stopped. No amount of poorness, no amount of struggle is going to end their passion, because they have a dream of the future. And even if that dream is not specific, all the better, because there's no end in sight to what we're capable of. Why should we set an end goal? This is something that is not natural to us. And the chasers have made that realization that they can run forever towards something they are passionate about, that fills themselves with joy, that makes their lives have meaning, that can't be given or taken away. You generate it creatively. And so I want people in the world to do that, to look at themselves, to question themselves critically, to be honest with themselves. And it's going to be painful, because getting over those anxieties, those walls, those blocks that ourselves, our parents, and society have all set up for us is unbelievably difficult. But also at the other side of it, you have potential for actually engaging authentically and honestly with the world. And in that place, the suffering washes away. Hey, this is a shout out to Matt Diamond Photography and Chasers, the documentary, and all of the wonderful producers and creators and artists out there in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm Jeanette Powers. You can find me on Flakebook as Jeanette Powers. That's Powers as in magical. You can find me on Instabrand as Novel Cliche, which is the performance art and visual art that I do. You can find me on JeanettePowers.com. And thanks for tuning in. Well, it was like, that's the first poem I ever memorized. It's one of my oldest poems. It's a poem everybody knew me for when I first started in Kansas City. And I probably haven't done that poem in years. And then it's exactly perfect for the message of chasers. Yeah, I'm dreaming.